Okay, so we're ready to move on, and like I said at the end of the last video, I glued all the decks down. So if you guys might be building this, just to let you know, I had to clamp the main deck, and you can tell the place that it's going to lock into because we don't take out the, we don't cut out the bulkhead slot. There's a little, this forms a little, like a little notch, and we have to glue this as well as the underneath of the bulkheads into place. But when I do that, it won't want to stay. You're going to have to bring it all down so it's even. So I ended up having to clamp everything. So that being said, everything is glued into place. The deck plates are glued into place, and what we got to do now, let me put her aside and we'll take a look at the instructions. So now we're going to move on to section E of the instruction sheet. And we've got a bunch of the bulkhead covers we got to do, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we have E7. Well, E7 is the wall. We have 25 and 26. So I want to make sure we get all the bulkhead tops because we're going to have to stain them. So we'll do those first, and then we have to get the walls that are going to go up against the bulkheads. And this one is going to be at the bow. And I think these are going to be the doors, ultimately. Well, these could be the pieces that go behind it, but you can see we're going to have to put the pieces behind them, behind the entranceways, and then we're going to paint them black, and then we got to dry brush the white. That'll be for the bow section, and the top is painted because that'll be over the deck. Speaking of the deck, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 decks that we have to take care of. So what we got to do, it doesn't say we have to stain or dye the underneath, but we got to cut them out. We'll file them smooth. We'll mark them off. We'll plank them. We'll trim it. We have to mark the little nails. We'll sand it down, and then we'll put the varnish on. So again, with the preparation. And then you can see what we're going to do is we're going to have, you got the poop deck, you got the bulkhead door where the quarter deck would be going back aft. We have the bow section. That's what's going to, well, hopefully mine looks as good as the one in the manual. But the first thing we got to do is we got to start getting all the pieces off the tree. we're going to use the walnut die. Okay, so that's everything that needed the walnut die. I think what we're going to do now is we're gonna paint the wall. Okay, now we're going to use the black paint. So we're going to put the walnut die aside, and I think what we should do first is we're actually going to glue a couple of strips onto the backs before I forget. Looks pretty cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure that there are no clumps and that everything is going to be coated, that's going to show. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. There we are. That looks pretty cool. All right, we're gonna put all this aside now. We gotta wait for all this to dry. E22. Yeah. Let's see how long this lasts, because it seems every time I think I have enough planks cut, I need like double, at least double that amount. So let's see. We'll just cut more, but I hope this should last for a little while. So we'll know if we get it straight along this line, it'll be all set. All right. So you still want to be able to see the line. So let me show you guys. I want to get, the whole reason we put that square on to square it off is now we can follow the pattern and we'll know it'll be square. Alright, that looks good. I think I'm going to put a wee bit of plastic on it. And what I'll do is we'll clamp it. There. So we're going to clamp that. And we're going to do the 3 1/4. So we'll go up, do the same thing. A 6 1/2 and a 3 1/4. The reason I'm marking it twice like that is because I can't put the square on it because it's not level, it's not flat, it's curved. So there. So hopefully you guys are going to be able to see the way I'm staggering them and the way I had to do the starter strip. See, we need to get it all even where we can just cut it and follow along the deck plate. So that looks good. So now I think we'll glue up some more and we'll do some more sections. This one's got a lot of openings around it that we're going to have to take care of. Alright, so let me show you guys. So we got this one done, and what I got to do is we're going to try to clamp this one as well. I might have to just put the books on it like I did before. There. All right. So we had to do the same thing. We kind of staggered them because we're going to have to cut and sand it down to fit the shape of the ship. So that looks good, so let's start going all the way down. There, so we got this one finished. And again, I need to push it down in the plastic, and we're going to press it between books. Alright, we're done this section, and I got to do the same thing. We're going to put it in plastic. And we got the last deck planked. At least I hope it's the last deck. At least it's the last deck for section E. So I'm gonna go press this and then we'll be ready to move on. Okay, so all the decks had time to dry and we got them all nice and flat again, because what I did was I sandwiched them, I wrapped them in plastic, and then I kind of stacked a bunch of heavy books, my Titanic books, especially the Ship Magnificent. That puts a lot of weight on these. So you can see they're all nice and flat. So what we got to do now, excuse me, what we got to do now is we have to actually start trimming. Okay, so now we got everything trimmed out. What we got to do now is we're going to have to put the little marks onto the planks. Then we'll sand it smooth. Then we can think about varnishing, just to define. Alright, so this one, we're going to put in the nail marks. There we are. Alright, let's do this section. So we basically got the planks with the nail holes to line up. Alright, so now what we got to do is we got to sand the decks down. And we're going to use the satin varnish. So what we got to do now is we're going to put all these aside and we're going to let them dry, and then we'll be able to move on. Okay, so the walls had some time to dry, and what we got to do now is we got to give them a dry wash, and we're going to use the white to give it that kind of like a foggy, kind of misty kind of look. So we're going to be using let's see, it doesn't have a picture of it, but we're going to be using the white, the Blanco white. All right. And we're going to do a dry wash with this. So I'm going to get the large brush, and the way to do a dry wash is you actually put paint. We're going to put paint into my little container. We don't need a lot for this. What we're going to do is we're going to soak the brush. We're going to let it absorb some of the paint, and then we're going to wipe it. We're going to actually kind of dry it off. So I want to get as much on the brush and inside the brush as possible. Like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to dry this off now. And the outside is going to be dry, and when we go over the texture, what little there'll be on the inside, we'll actually be able to feather it onto the surface of the wood. So we'll take one of the pieces, and this is another reason I didn't want to sand it smooth, because I wanted to put a little bit. So we can highlight a bit, like around the doors, maybe a little bit on the boards on the inside, and then we can just kind of feather it down, just like that. So let's do around the walls, just like that. Yeah. And again, I want to feather it, just like that. See how cool that looks? All right, let's do this one next. And again, just a bit. We want to emphasize the edges, like that. And then I want to feather this down, and I want to go over it just enough where it kind of picks up the grain in the wood. Kind of like that. We'll go around the door. There. It gives the wood the color, kind of like that spooky, like a spooky looking through the mist kind of look. You can only who will be walking around in the mist on the Dutchman. Just like that. Okay, we're going to let that dry now, and now we're going to do the ones for the aft end, and that would be E3, E4, and E5. So E3 would be, so 3 is all the way in the back. There. All right. We got to let all these dry. You guys, remember we just did this. You can see the varnish dried and it looks pretty good. This is going to go with the bow. And we're going to have to sand down the bulkhead tops because it's not quite cured yet, but I just want to make sure that we got it in the right position. So there's no way for me to clamp the middle part, but you can see because we sanded it's making contact, and we have the little posts that are all in the area. And what we're going to do now is we're going to clamp. Let's see, can I reach this clamp in? Okay, we'll clamp right there. And I want to make sure they're right up against the bulkheads. So let's see if I can. Nope, I don't think I'll be able to put a clamp in there. So this is not going to go anywhere. This is going to be very solid. So let's put this right up against the deck, just like that. So let's give that a wee clamp. And what that's going to do is this is going to be really solid. There. It's looking pretty cool. Now we're going to glue the top so we can put everything together. There we are. So that's nice and snug. There we are. You can see the pegs are lining up. The deck is coming down flush with the wall. You can see the two walls now that are in. And You can see down at the bow section. So I think what we're going to do now is, let me put her in a shot for you. You can see what we did. We did the bulkheads on top. We had to fit all the decks. We had to plank them. We had to cut the strips. We had to sand them down, trim it, and then we had to varnish it. So this was part E, or part 5, and we stained the tops of the bulkheads. We used the walnut dye. We put the wood strips behind for the quarterdeck walls. We painted the walls black. We dry brushed them white. We put them up against the bulkheads. We did the decks. We placed the walls in on the top where the poop deck is. And like I said, the steps themselves weren't terribly hard. It was just all the preparation. So she's starting to really come together, and we did our first painting, finish painting. So we did the black, and we have the white drywall. I'm sorry, the white dry brush to give it that spooky effect. So hopefully you can see the deck coming at you, the Flying Dutchman. So my friends, until my next video, where we're going to be going on to F, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.